placket piece. Fold each side in towards the center and press. Fold the bottom up 1/2 inch and press. Now take your front bodice piece. Fold in half with wrong sides together and press. This will create a line down the center. Take the fox placket piece and center it over the crease that you just created. Pin in place. Sew along each side and the bottom of your placket 1/8 inch from the folded edge. Add the facing as shown in the tutorial and top stitch. Using a hand sewing needle, you will place 5 to 6 buttons along your fox placket. Sew along the shoulder seams and add the facing as shown in the tutorial. Fold the bodice in half and press a crease down the center. Now, using the chart found in your tutorial, we will be marking a 1 inch wide rectangle down the center of the bodice. I will be marking my rectangle using some Dritz tailor's chalk and an acrylic ruler. Start by marking right down the center of the bodice. Next, we will be marking 1/2 inch along each side of our center line. Using the chart from the tutorial, mark how long your placket should be. You're going to mark straight across the 3 lines that we just made. Using your sewing machine, run a basting stitch along the rectangle we created. Make sure to turn sharply at the corners. Now that we have basted the outside of our rectangle, grab a pair of scissors. Cut directly down the center line of your placket, stopping 1/2 inch from the bottom. Once you reach the bottom, you will cut diagonally into each corner. This will create a small flap at the bottom. Make sure that as you are cutting, you cut all the way to the corner, but do not clip through your stitching. This is what's going to give the corners of your placket a nice sharp turnout. Prep your placket pieces by adding interfacing to the wrong side. Sew across the top and clip the seam allowance down to 1/8 inch. Turn your placket pieces right side out and press. Make sure that you have a nice sharp corner at the top. Repeat for the other placket piece. Now we will pin our placket piece to the opening that we created in our front bodice. The closed edge of your placket will align with the top of the neckline. Pin all the way down one side of your rectangle. sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You will sew all the way from the neckline to the corner, stopping right at the corner. Now that we have both of our placket pieces attached, let's take a look. Both are sewn with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and stop at the same point along the bottom. As you can see, the stitching line goes right to the corner of the rectangle that we created. Fold the placket pieces inward, tucking the bottoms underneath your front bodice. Pin your placket pieces together. Make sure that everything lines up correctly. The little triangle of fabric that we created earlier should be tucked down into your placket. Really take the time to make sure that everything is lining up correctly and pressed. This will help a lot, making sure your placket has a nice turnout. We are going to sew straight across the bottom of the placket. This is what will close your placket. Now let's take a look. The outside of our placket looks great. Let's look at the underneath. Once you've sewn across the bottom, you can trim off any excess fabric and serge or zigzag stitch to finish that edge. If you like, you can top stitch along the sides of your placket, about 1/8 inch away from the seam. Then just simply add your buttons or snaps and you're all done. Just like with the traditional placket, we will mark a 1-inch rectangle down the center of our bodice, then baste around those edges. Now we will take a pair of scissors and cut the same way. Cut directly down the center of your bodice, stopping 1/2 inch from the bottom, and then clip diagonally into each corner as shown. Make sure that you are clipping all the way to, but not through, your stitching. Now we have 2 flaps on either side and 1 triangular shaped flap at the bottom. Now let's work on our placket pieces. Fold your twill tape in half, long ways, and sew along one side to close. Stitch as close to the edge as you can. Now our placket is open along one long side and the bottom, with the top edge and one side closed. Repeat for both pieces. Now we will be sliding our twill tape placket over one of the side flaps that we made. With the folded edge at the top, slide the flap 1/2 inch into the twill tape placket. You will be matching up the edge of the twill tape with your basted line. Pin carefully so that everything lines up correctly. Pin all the way to the end of the flap. As we sew, we are going to sew all the way to the corner of the rectangle, 1/2 inch away from the edge of the twill tape. Repeat for the other side of the placket. Tuck the bottom end of the placket piece into the front bodice. Match the other side on top and pin in place. Now we need to close the bottom of the placket. Check to make sure that both of your placket pieces are laying on top of one another and your flap is straight. Sew straight across the bottom. Once you're satisfied with the look, you can trim off any excess and serge across the bottom. Place 5 to 6 snaps or buttons, and you're all done.